So welcome back to the shop, friends. It's the video that we've all been anticipating, all been waiting for. What are we, part four? Part four of the top 50 tools that every man should have. Now, I've received a little bit of heat from some of the female subscribers, which is, I think, right around 5% of the channel, using the term every man's or commons man. But you know what? It's not meant to be sexist. It's not meant to be derogatory towards anyone. But I think it's okay. Aren't we allowed to have our own things? We don't all have to think alike and don't all have to do the exact same thing. So when I'm speaking to common man's or every man's toolkit, it is the majority. All right, what are we at? 40? 40? We're in part four of a 5-part series. We're going to go through the 10 tools today. And let's take a look and see what's inside the toolbox. I guess we can start with this one. It's kind of boring though. A rake. A rake. We're going to have a rake. Now there's two different varieties. This is kind of an unusual one. Your regular metal rake, you know, the bow rake like you use for raking dirt and all that. Then there's the big leaf rake, that sort of thing, you know, and you're gonna have to decide what's gonna be most important for you. I would say that for most guys, the regular bow rake, the one made out of wire with the tines on it, that's a handy thing. You can rake leaves with it, you can level dirt, you can rake gravel, a million different things. But I would include that in there. This just happened to be handy. This is the one that my favorite, the Rogue. For kind of a fire rake or a forestry rake, you know, we're not raking leaves in the suburbs. So if I lived in that area, I would have a very different rake. But so a good wood-handled rake. Your tools, I'd recommend wood handles if you can get away with it. Get quality ones and make sure that they're heavy gauge. Stay away from the cheap stuff. You get the good stuff. If you want the good stuff, go to where the professionals buy. Find out where landscapers buy their stuff, and that's where you go. Usually they have some pretty good stuff. Okay, so let's break into the toolbox and see what we have. Oh, we've got some essentials in here. Okay, so this is, of course, more than one tool, but I'm going to lump it all in together as a set. You're going to need a good set. Actually, if you live in America, you're going to need 2 sets of box end wrenches. A box end wrench is, as we all know, is open on one end and it's closed on the other end. What size? You're going to want from a 1/4 inch up to, for most guys, you know, a 1/4 inch to 1 inch is a great set. A really great set. It's going to cover about everything you need to do. 15/16 and 1 inch, that's a little bit on the large side. You may not get into it. Some of the sets are going to go up to 7/8. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Get a good... There's so many good tools now. Even some of the stuff that's produced overseas is actually pretty good. I've got some stuff from Harbor Freight and Tecton and companies that I have, not for my primary stuff, but I put together like in a truck kit, you know, for an extra set, because I don't want to be taking my good Snap-on tools out on the road and being in the back of the truck all the time. So a good set, and your metrics, you're going to want to go from what? I don't know. 6 millimeter up to 20, 22. You know, that's going to cover, you know, most things you're going to work on now in the States are going to be standard. It's really frustrating. Some cars are a mix of standard and metric, so you have to have both. But a good set of standard and metric box and wrenches, you have to have those. And again, I will go and do the research and put my choices in the affiliate links in the subject heading, the ones that I've chosen. They're just a good value. I'm not going to be specking out Snap-on or top of the line. If you're a mechanic, you can make that choice, but I'm also not going to be picking stuff that's junk either. So with that being said, you can find that there. All right, so what's next here? You're going to need a good saw, and the best one all around. I spend a lot of time with saws, and this one is my most favorite. You can tell from its use and abuse here. The Silky Big Boy is, man, this is a great saw. So why do you need a saw? Well, so many guys said, well, you know, you need to make sure you put a chainsaw in there. I disagree. You know, there's not a lot of us that have a requirement for a chainsaw. Yeah, we all want one, but we don't necessarily all need one. So if you want a chainsaw, that's fine. You can replace a handsaw with a chainsaw. But for most guys, this is going to be really great. You have an oak tree that the branch came down, you know, across your roof. You need to deal with it. You know, you can do a lot of work. These saws that are made in Japan are pretty incredible. It's amazing the amount of work that you can do with them in comparison to their size. They just cut like crazy. You can cut trees, you can cut firewood, you can do landscaping, a million different things, but I love these Silkies, and this one in particular is my favorite. I have probably 3 or 4 or 5 different ones, and this is the one, the big boy, because it folds up and you can actually carry it around in your back pocket. You can take it camping. It's good for bushcrafting. So, get the sheath too. The sheath is really nice to have. You can have it on you. You can wear it. It kind of protects it. I always try to go for cases and sheaths when I buy stuff. It just everything that when I spend the extra money and do that, it seems that they last longer. It just protects them. So I'm gonna go for the Silky big boy saw for all of the mentioned reasons. All right, what else we got in here? You're gonna want a ball peen hammer. This is the second hammer, I believe. Yeah, only the second hammer we have in the kit. And then, you know, it's tough for me because I can't whittle down my hammers. I have so many different specific hammers that I'd like to have. But I had to narrow it down to 2. It's going to be the Estwing claw hammer that we featured in previous video and a good ball peen hammer, mechanics hammer. This is a hammer that's you'll be able to beat on metal with. It's going to have a ball or a round section at the rear. This is maybe a little bit of a non-conventional one. Just get a standard one. You don't need one this big either. Get a little bit smaller one, maybe a 16 ounce or 14 ounce or maybe 18, whatever. But it's going to have a ball on the end of it and a flat pounding head, you know, convex. And that's going to allow you to just do mechanical work. If you need to beat pins, if you need to persuade things, you just need to smash things, if you need to peen stuff over, it's just, those are the 2 hammers. Your claw hammer for construction side of it, and your ball peen hammer is going to cover all of the mechanical side of it and repairing stuff. And you want a good ball hammer, and I'll spec out a good wood-handled one for that reason. Okay, ball hammer. What's next? Oh, let's keep moving on here. You're gonna want a file, a good file. I went back and forth on this. You know, these are kind of my 2 favorites. Your good standard file is gonna be your mill file, your mill bastard file. It's with a double cut on it. It's just a good all-around file for sharpening tools. For deburring things, for doing, if you need to make a triangle hole or a square or rectangle hole in something, I mean, you can break out of jail with a file. Haven't we been shown that in how many movies? You can get through steel with a file given enough time and space, as I'm so fond of saying. But you want a file for all of those jobs, mainly for sharpening and taking the edges off of stuff, or putting the edges on things, or whatever. You want a good file. So a good the one that's a good all-arounder. This is the one that the Forest Service, they've been issuing out on the wildland fires, and it's got an incorporated handle on it. Where is this made? India. Mercer. It's probably not a great file, but this is kind of nice because it's just no nonsense. You don't have the plastic handle and the tang and all that. It's ready to go. You got something to hold on to. It's just simple, clean, and easy. So I'll try to spec these out. But you'd be amazed with your garden tools alone how much better they work if you take a moment in the spring or in the fall when you put them away and put a little edge on them. If you're going to be out, you know, using your hoe in the garden or your rake or your shovel, put a little edge on it and it makes a big difference. So you want a file in your toolkit for all of those reasons. Kind of in the same theme here as the boy, my phone is just going crazy. I thought I turned it off. You're going to need a socket set. Now your socket sets, you're going to want to put together a deep and a shallow. If you look and see here, so we've got the shallow sockets. These are going to be your strongest ones, and then you've got your deep sockets for, let's say you have something that's down in a hole, like a spark plug, or a bolt that's got a long thread sticking out of it. You know, you can't use these, so you kind of have to have both. It's just they'd come together in a set. And again, if you're American, you're going to have a standard and a metric set. So what size? You're going to want 1/4 inch all the way up to 1 inch. Just mirror your wrenches, because these 2 guys are almost always going to be used together. If you're tightening a 1/2 inch bolt, that means you're going to need a 1/2 inch on both ends, and you only have 1 wrench. You can't tighten it with 1 wrench, so these are going to go back and forth. So I would probably advise just getting a decent set. I'll spec that out for you. That's going to have a nice ratchet on it. It's going to have some extensions. Those are really important to have for hard to get to items. I mean, you don't need to go full on mechanic set, but a good solid set, quarter up, quarter to 1 inch. On your metric side, I would say probably 6 millimeter up to 20, 22, somewhere in there, whatever your wrenches are, or similar to that. So you'll always have 2 on each side. Now, in addition, I know this is a little bit extra, and this may not come in the kit, but I am gonna lump it in together with the socket set, is you're gonna want a flex handle or a breaker bar. My granddad always called it a flex handle. I guess because it does flex. This is a Snap-on one I bought years ago in a 1/2 inch drive. I remember I bent one of these. I may have put a pipe on it. Of course, I wouldn't tell a Snap-on guy that. But anyway, I took it I took it into the tool truck and I said, Tom, can you warranty? He's like, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen anyone bend a 1/2 inch Snap-on flex handle, but I did bend it. He did mention something about a pipe, but I pleaded the fifth on that. A flex handle, you're gonna need this because this is a ratchet right here. It's gonna come with your set, and this is a long one. This is longer than typical. They're gonna be usually shorter than this. You can't get a whole lot of leverage on there. And if you've got that on taking some wheel studs off of your 3/4 ton, and I don't know what size are those things, 15, 16, 7/8, you're not going to get them off with this. I promise you that. You're going to need some leverage, and that's what these are designed for. So a good flex handle, what is that, 2 feet, 2 foot or so, is money. You can do just about everything. Now you're going to have to make a decision on your sockets as well as what drive, meaning there are 4 different sizes of sockets. I have a 1/4 inch set, meaning it's the size of this little guy right here. Your 1/4 inch set are going to be for your small stuff, like working on small engines. And then it's going to be your standard, your bread and butter is probably going to be for the common guy, a 3/8 set, which is this. 3/8 on the mandrel, or whatever you call a square part there, the square drive. And then you're going to jump up to a little bit heavier duty, which is your 1/2 inch drive. Which wouldn't be a bad way to go. If I was only going to buy one set, I'd probably really think about maybe getting a set of 1/2 inch drive sockets and ratchets because they're just so much bigger and stronger. You're asking a lot of one of these, a 3/8 drive wrench socket set, to take off lug nuts for a car. So if you're going to be working on your trucks or you have tractors or equipment, just step on up and just get the 1/2 inch drive set. And then I've even got I've got a 1 inch drive set, the great big ones that go up to like, I don't know, like 3 inch sockets that I bought from my old neighbor Henry. And I've only needed those for working on really big tractors and heavy equipment. Rarely use them, so you don't need that. But 3/8 or 1/2 inch drive, you decide how big a work you're gonna do, what type of equipment do you have, make that decision. Ultimately, you're gonna want to have one of each. You want to have 1/4, 1/2, and 3/8. But if you're just going to buy one, you can make that call. You can make that call back and forth. All right, what else were we? Were we number 8? 8? I lost track. I forgot. Oh, this was a tough one for me too here. So, a jack. You got to have a jack. Now, I'm going to let you guys make the call on this. What type of jack? This is a bottle jack. This is going to be your cheapest way to go. It's going to do about everything. I mean, my first cousin bought a garage from a guy, and he used jacks like this, and he jacked it up off the foundation and put his trailer under it and put some timbers across there and drove it across town and set it up in his own house. It's amazing what you can do with jacks. I mean, around here there's a company called Emirate International, and they move homes. It's like no big deal. It's just their routine deal, and they have these big bottle jacks, and they lift things up, and they can move anything. It's not a super convenient thing to work with. It's very slow. It's heavy. It's kind of hard to move around. If you have a shop, or even a garage, you're going to want to get a floor jack. Get a floor jack, a mechanic style jack with the 4 wheels on it that you can roll around. 2-tonner, 3-tonner's better, but 2-tonner. Even if you buy a lighter weight one, let's say you do have a big truck, maybe you've got a Dodge with a Cummins in it. Even some of those slower end 3-tonners are not going to lift the whole front of that. So what you can do is you can just lift one tire at a time. I've got a Snap-on jack that's like a 1.5 ton, and it won't lift my truck with the V10 in it. So I'll jack up one side and put a jack stand under and get in the other side. The rear it will lift. So you can get away. You don't have to buy these big monster jacks, but that's where you're going to want to spend a little bit of money and get a quality tool. Those Chinese and Harbor Freight floor jacks and such are are tempting to buy, but you can still find some decent. I don't know if Lincoln, do they still make them in America? I had an old Lincoln Jack that was it was a good one. It was a USA made, and then I bought one that I thought was the same from Napa, and it lasted like 2 weeks and started leaking and failed on me. And I mean, it was one of those companies that had previously been an American company and then moved overseas and just started producing garbage. So which one am I recommending? Well, if you're a mechanic type and you like to work on your cars, and you like to rotate your tires and change your oil and stuff, it's a floor jack. If it's just putting together a kit and you're not super hands-on, just get yourself a little I don't know, what size is this one? This is an old timer, this one that belonged to my granddad here. I don't know, what do you say, a 10-tonner? 5-tonner, 10-tonner? They're not that big, they're cheap. These things are $5, $6 at a garage sale. But practically give them to you, or you practically or pay you to take them away. You know, they're just not something that people really want around. But you want a jack. You want a jack. And finally, number 10, if I counted right, the thing I'm not going to bring it in here because it won't fit. You're going to want an extension ladder. What size? What length? Well, you know, there's a couple. You're going to have your fiberglass ones, which are going to be a little bit more expensive. You'll see a lot of electricians and journeymen use those ladders. They're a little bit stiffer, but they're really heavy and they're expensive. They used to be a lot more expensive than the aluminums. Now, not as much. But what I would recommend is just get a good, decent quality, middle of the road aluminum ladder. And as far as length goes, you want to figure how high, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it to get up and clean your eaves? And how tall are your eaves? Do you have a shop that's got 14-foot eaves that you need to get up to and maybe knock ice dams off or do repairs, whatever? What I'd recommend is make sure you get it tall enough that where if you just split that extension ladder into 2 pieces, you know how they telescope, that with one piece you can reach whatever height you want. So if that's 14 foot, you want to get at least a 28 foot or 30 footer. If it's 8 feet, then you can get a 20. You know, break those, because what that gives you is the ability to have 2 ladders instead of just one. So if you need to get up there and to hang a gutter, or you need to have your wife or friend or neighbor help you, then you've got 2 ladders you can kind of set up and use it to do a lot of stuff. It's a lot more versatile. So that's kind of what I would recommend. So I can't tell you the exact length. It just depends on your application and what you need to do. Wow, that went pretty fast. So what do we hit? So just to recap, we should be at 40. We have one more video and we'll cover the final things, the 10 last things, and that's gonna be the hardest one because I have about 20 things that I want to include and I'm not gonna be able to. I'm gonna have to whittle that down to 10. Breaker bar, flex handle, 3/8 half-inch drive set, sockets, shallow, deep, standard, and American, English, Imperial. End wrenches, box end wrenches, a good set, metric and standard, 1/4 inch to 1 inch, we'll say, would be a great set. On the metric side, we'll go maybe even 8 millimeters. That's pretty small. 8 millimeter to 2022. Bottle jack, the Silky Big Boy. That is a great saw. The ball peen hammer, wood handle preferably. Not these snap-on ones are really nice, but they don't last very long, and I'll take them in after, maybe I might get 5 or 6 years out of them, and then they break. And then I bought them because they have such good warranty. So if you have access to Snap-on guy, if you want to do it, go for it. But I don't think it's necessary at all. And then a good mill bastard file, a good all-arounder coarse file in about a 12-inch length like this, will serve you well. All right, I think that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.